Absolutely. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from Mason Works Marketing and Conscious Business Zone. Today with Luannah Victoria Arana. Hi, Luannah.
Hey, Kathy.
Oh, so Luannah is in actually Canada, and I want her to tell us a little bit about where she is right now and the amazing, it's like a dream where she lives and what she does. So it's called Serenity by the Sea. Could you share a little bit about Serenity by the Sea for us?
Yeah, it's a place of absolute magic. And the best way would be to just share how it came to be, because it's a
Okay.
magical story, and it creates a lot of ripples of goodness and hope at the possibilities that seem impossible, but then end up being possible.
Uh-huh.
I was working on my book already a few years ago, and before I did the final retreat to actually complete the book, I was already dabbling, writing the outlines. And then I had a healing session down island. I live on Galiano Island, and I had my own healing studio. And I brought my computer so that I could work on the book after the healing session. And I went down, and I thought, okay, let's get started. And then I had this feeling, go get a coffee and a cinnamon bun. And I'm like, no, I don't need a coffee and a cinnamon bun. I want to just be here. And then I got that message in my head again, go get a coffee and a cinnamon bun. And I went, okay, fine. Yeah, Lisa's Babes in the Woods is a restaurant we have here on the island, great pizzeria. And I went, okay, I'll just go. And so I went, and then I sat at my computer on the community table, and behind me was a wall of art that was on for show. And so a little backstory, the former owners of Serenity by the Sea, I knew about them through a mutual friend from many, many years ago. And I met her once, the one owner, the female owner, Shira, once. And that was it. And we never saw them on the island because they were always just in their own bubble. And so I'm sitting there, and then they walk in the door. And I'm not an overly gregarious, engager. When I know people, once I feel comfortable, then I come out of myself, right?
Yeah.
But empathic introvert, but very extroverted when I feel comfortable with people, right?
Uh-huh.
And then they ended up standing right in front of me and watching the artwork behind me, and I'm like, should I say hello? And my voice saying, yeah, say hi. I'm like, no, I don't want to. Okay, so I went, hey, hi, I'm Luannah. You're Shira Chitikash. We're mutual friends with, and that, oh yeah, I met you once before. And I said, yeah, I have the healing studio here. I do healing retreats. And they said, yeah, we have the healing retreats at Serenity by the Sea. We've heard all about you. And I'm like, oh, nice. And so I said, yeah, it's great being here on Galiano. We just had a little small talk, and then Shira looks at me with her, little magical eye. She's when you meet her, she's incredible. She says, do you know Serenity by the Sea is for sale? And I said, no, I didn't. I said, it is a dream of mine to have a property, for years, where I could do my retreats in one place so people have that wholesome goodness of nature to nourish them during their process, so that they don't have to interface with the world right away, right? And I said, well, I don't know. I said, maybe if it's still for sale in a few years. I said, because my husband and I have some shares that, had the promise of possibly getting bigger. And we said, then maybe it might be possible. And I said, so let's touch base then. And then Chitikash, her husband, he looks like a leprechaun. He looks at me and he says, oh, we might be able to work something out. I'm like,
you were divinely guided to go there and be there.
Yeah, I'm forever faithful to cinnamon buns and coffee. And I was just like, you guys don't know me. Oh, we know your reputation. We all know all about you. And we got a feeling. And I said, okay. And so I was about to take off for Toronto to go see my mom, who is ill. They were about to go away. So we made a date for March 9th to have dinner at their place and to bring my husband and our son. And so I went home to my husband and I showed him, I'd never seen Serenity by the Sea before. And so I looked up the website and I said, this is what happened. And he said, oh my God. He said, tell them we're interested no matter, let's just check it out. He's a possibilities man too. And so I emailed them and said, hey, we have no idea how this could work out. But, let's meet, let's see, let's talk, right? And so long story short, we went there for that dinner. Actually, no, the day before, this is really magical. The day before we went to the property to walk around the outside of it, there's a creek running through it, waterfall right into the ocean.
Wow.
It's just, and they built this house to adapt to nature. So it's built in all the nooks and crannies of a cliff, 5 stories.
Wow.
It's like a magical Harry Potter place. And so we were sitting there, and my husband and son were walking around the property, and I was sitting there by the beach, and I just looked up. I took a deep breath and went, oh my God, I feel like I can finally exhale after all of my journeys.
Oh my gosh.
After all of, the pushing through to get through, right? I sat there and I went, oh my God. I said, God, life, spirit, if there is any way at all that this can be, please make it so. I felt my whole body just drop. And then I joined my husband and my son again. And then my son got this piece of arbutus bark, like about this big, and he cut it in 3 pieces. And he said, here, let's write a message to the spirit little people of the land, that they know we want this, that they can help us get this land.
So he got the magic. The 2 of you made another magical being. So
yeah, and so he had us with our imaginary pens, write on arbutus bark, and then put it in 3 different places so that they find it for sure.
One for each one of you.
Exactly. Yeah, it was so beautiful. And then it was just like, and we went, okay, God willing, who knows, right? And then we went home. The next day we came, and we hit it off so beautifully with the owners, Shira and Chittakash. And we had this great conversation, and then they told us how much they wanted and how much they wanted as a deposit. We're like,
yeah,
thank you. It's a beautiful place. We love it, but we don't think we can do it. And we were about to go out the door, and my husband, Juan Carlos, was saying to Chittakash, thank you for the possibility, but, I don't think we can do it. And Chittakash grabbed him by the arm and says, but you're already the impossible that came possible. Let's see what we can do.
They saw you. Oh, wow.
Yeah, they saw us. They saw us.
Yes.
And it was just, and the serendipity too, because Shira, she's born one day after me, December 3rd.
Wow.
But many years later, she's older, right? And then she's also does healing work. She's also a Wonder Woman who's overcome so many traumas. It's unbelievable, physical and emotional. And then they also, my husband's from Peru. And so they used to bring healing tours to Peru for 30 years. So there was like all these like synchronicities that, it was just phenomenal, mind blowing, right?
Right.
And then in the end, they changed the price for us, like the deposit they wanted. And we were able to get a loan for the deposit. And then they directly mortgaged us.
Oh my gosh. They were that sure that you were the rightful.
And because this was their baby, they wanted it to be carried on. They did healing work here. They did community work here. They wanted the property to continue to be what they made it to be. And they told us that we'll bring it to the next level. Wow.
Well, and I bet your son even ends up being a healer and working in it too.
Oh yeah. He loves my crystal singing bowls. When he was 6 years old, he used to go into my healing studio and like sound them. And then he'd gather the sound in his hand of all the bowls. He says, here, eat this. This is a light ball.
Oh my God. And he saw it. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Kids are amazing.
It's pretty magical. Yeah.
Wow.
So, this was against all odds, and if they, they could have, they had other offers, for even more than what they charged us, but they wanted us so badly to be the ones, So
you were the stewards. They knew you were the stewards, and you knew it. There was all these synchronicities. I just wonder, if there's a chess game up in the other dimensions, like how they move the pieces just so to get you.
Well, if I didn't go to the coffee house for the cinnamon bun and coffee, they were in there for only 5 minutes, in and out. They went to pick up food. And then down island, they just, we just stay in our little bubble up here. It's so beautiful.
Well, I understand because I think now, and that's a great part of a lesson actually that you can share over and over again, is how you've used your intuition to guide you in lots of ways And this was the perfect one for right now, but there'll be many more.
Yeah, and then the other serendipity I came to a few months ago, I went, wait a second. So Serenity happened because I was working on my book. And then this is where I finished it.
Perfect.
Right. I did an online 7-day retreat with Tom Byrd, an amazing mentor for writing.
Yeah.
And so I was here in the house with my altar on my table, just by myself, writing nonstop for 7 days. And then every other process took place here too. So it's like Serenity in the book seemed to be, you know.
Well, your book is amazing. And I did promote Tom Byrd here. And a bunch of my friends took his class, but not all of them finished the book like you did. Some of them are still talking about it, which is what happens. Life happens, right? But your book is amazing. Well, I want to go a little bit further into what you offer at Serenity by the Sea before we go to the book, because the book, because I want everyone to know this is an example of someone being courageous enough to tell their story and live their dream and push through, because we're in a push through time now. 2020, at least in my opinion, is a push through time. And we, I want to cheerlead as many people on as possible to do that, because your story and your success is possible for everyone. They can have their divine mission. They can do their soul journey to a beautiful, beautiful extent if they have the courage and they watch what you've done.
Absolutely. It's like in the book title, it's, resilience, grace, and the art of showing up, accessing because whenever I would tell my story to people, to say, you got to write a book. I'm like, well, what are you going to do about it? How did I get through? I sat down with myself, like, how did I get through? Right? All this stuff.
Well, and we'll be talking about that, but talk a little bit about what you offer now, because I think the thing is what you're seeing is when people do the hero's journey, which is what Luannah's done. She has pushed through all her obstacles to the other side, which must have been her soul lesson that she chose before she was in non-physical. And all of us are being asked to do that now. And so when you see what she's doing, she's not only gone through for herself, she's doing it for anyone else that sees the opportunity to heal. So, okay, so back to you. Sorry. Well, no, I just want to cheerlead you. It's just so important.
So much. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's incredible to be here. And, when the book hit bestseller last week, I was with my husband and my son out for dinner, and my husband went out to go get the car, and Isaac and I were sitting there, and I just decided I'm going to open my email right now. And then I found out, and I went, oh, Isaac. I said, what happened? I said,
yeah. But would you mind explaining what you do? Because you talked about retreats at Serenity by the Sea. I just want to make sure that they understand that not only that have you gone through all of this and you've done the heroine's journey. I think hero is a non-gendered word myself. But anyway, but that you are actually holding space and helping others heal.
Yeah, so already before Serenity, I was starting to do healing retreats, but I would have my clients stay at other people's bed and breakfasts. So, but now here at Serenity, there's a contained space of love and healing and magic. I mean, the owners before, they filled this place with magic and love. This whole interaction of how it came to be is a vibration of love on this property. And the nature views are stunning. And so what I offer are personal healing retreats where my clients can choose from the menu of different services that I offer. I've done a lot of different trainings, and every one of them has helped me in my life to overcome my things. Yeah. And so I offer personal retreats where they customize whatever they want, however many hours they want, how many days they want.
Wonderful.
One-on-one together.
Wow.
So anywhere from 4 hours a day to 8 hours a day. And so it's about, for me, I like to give everything I've got. I don't want to string people along. okay, well then come to my next thing, and then come to my next thing. I don't vibe with that.
It's a deep dive, though.
It's
This is for courageous people that are just ready to just do it. Just they don't want to. They've already read all the books. They've already done all the courses, and they want to have somebody who can hold their hand and help them go to the other side and be their divine self.
Yeah, exactly. And to move through through the dualities, to marry them, to understand how the dualities actually work together to create, right? Because oftentimes we're battling the two dualities all the time. So I'm trained in traditional Hawaiian healing and was initiated by my elder, Harry Huani Jim, as a traditional healer and teacher. And so one of the major teachings there is embrace the paradox. And so how do we harness the knowledge of the dualities and create the cosmic balance of the two and understand that they're actually forces working together, not against each other?
Right. Well, it's all one and it's all choice, but you don't realize when you're being triggered, you have a choice.
Exactly.
Right?
I give the tools. My main focus is to give the tools that when we are triggered, that we can take that conscious choice. So I teach a lot about how the brain works when we're triggered, our nervous system, and how we can create a bridge to access our consciousness, our frontal neocortex, when our limbic system is activated. Perfect. And so through a combination of breath work, affirmations, the traditional Hawaiian healing techniques. I'm a heart math coach as well.
Oh, wonderful.
Massage, body work, sound healing, movement therapy. I studied movement therapy for 11 years. It was a huge part of my healing because with the traumas that I had, it was hard for me to move my body. And so dance was a key component. And then I'm also a self-taught flautist. I play the Native American cedar flute.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so it became my prayer language. So I was inspired by a person that I met that had taught himself as a part of his healing. And so I had the courage. I just picked up a $5 flute and started playing in nature, and that became my language. And then when I moved to Vancouver, after I lived in Europe for 10.5 years, that's where a lot of my journey happened.
Right.
And when I moved to Vancouver, then I was adopted into a community by a Cree elder. And then when he found out that I played the flute, he started inviting me for potluck and ceremonies. And then it grew. And then a producer heard about me, wanted me to play something on his CD. And then he gave me 4 hours of free studio time. So I have a beautiful healing CD that came out of it as well.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. See, again, it's all synchronous. It's all like, okay, I'm ready for the next step. I'm ready for the next step. And I'll do it.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the CD is that I was still working through a lot of the trauma trigger responses. I was still having activations. And the day I was supposed to go to the studio, I had an activation. And I almost didn't go. And then an inner voice, my inner voice, high self said, okay, either you're going to stay stuck and at the mercy of these triggers, or you're just going to go and show up. And so I went and I showed up, and it was magic. And that's healing. And I have people calling me from around the world saying that they love my CD, that is bringing them healing, or their pets healing, or their kids healing, spontaneous clearings. But so that's why I have the art of showing up in my title.
Right.
Moments that come our way, and every moment is a choice, right?
Right.
And if I would have chose to say, let my trigger and the emotions that came up around the trigger be stronger than my desire to go meet this situation and explore something new, then I wouldn't even be here, because that was one of the stepping stones.
Well, you do have a wonderful curiosity that you are not afraid to explore. That's your whole book. I want to welcome Luannah Fiore's here and Jade Rader. They both are Hawaii ladies. Jade lives in Oregon now, and Luannah lives here, but and then we've got Matthew, James Bailey's on, and Matthew's writing a book right now. So he probably will be really interested in hearing your book story. So next, I think that's an amazing opportunity for someone to go and just get it done. I mean, and get the tools to be empowered to choose something else. If you find that over and over again, your storyline is the same. It just has different characters. Then this is an opportunity to change that, because the only variable that's the same in all of it is you or me, or when you're bringing the same frequency in over and over again, there's a way to stop that. Just stop it, right?
And we learn and heal in layers, and I think that's an important thing to understand too, right? So sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, okay, I healed that and it's done, and then we get surprised when another layer comes up, right? And so that's, for me, a really important understanding in any kind of evolution or growth or healing is, we remember, we forget, we remember, we forget. It's a part of the journey. But
Right.
Each time when we re-meet a layer, and then we utilize what we know when that trigger comes up, then it becomes more part of us, right? Then it becomes stronger. And then the moments of forgetting and remembering become minute. Right?
Well, what I like about what you do, what I think I understand that you do, I haven't experienced it yet, but hopefully I will. What I like about what you do is that it's nature, it's 3D. So much of the work that people are doing, it's in higher dimension, and you still have to fully function here. And we chose to embody at least part of our soul, part of our essence is in this physical realm, learning and expanding consciousness with our experience. So we need the tools that are grounded in nature, in this realm, that allow us to co-create with the universe at a higher level.
And we're here to learn to be creators in the 3D, right? And so
Right.
Again, embracing the paradox. If I focus only on the 3D and I don't focus on my spirit, it's an imbalance, and vice versa. If I'm only focusing on trying to ascend,
Right.
Then there's an imbalance. So my work is about how do we find that balance, and giving tools to find and create that balance.
Right.
Because the thing is that if we don't cultivate those 3D tools, then our limbic system will also always be in fight or flight, because it knows.
Right. That's right. And once you experience the release of that, you have so much more capacity, because you don't even know how much of you's in resistance all the time.
And I've been there. I've been in those shoes, where I was, many years ago, I had negated all technology and all of this stuff. And I felt overwhelmed if I walked in the store. I felt overwhelmed. Like it'd take 3 days to do energy work after going outside of the house. And then one day I went, wait a second, this is not a life. I can't imagine that God wants me to live in seclusion like this,
Right.
in isolation, where I'm just shrinking. And I thought, okay, there's got to be a way for me to be able to be in the world,
Right.
not of it, but be in it and navigate it so that I can function and I can live my dreams. I can do what I want to do, right?
Perfect.
And then that was a turnaround for me, right? And then I just started doing, and the thing that I noticed is that the reasons I was so sensitive and vulnerable was because of all the unhealed traumas. So the more that I healed my traumas, the more solid I got.
Okay, so let's go to the book then, because we're going to explain how you healed a lot of what was going on in your early childhood, which almost everyone, I don't know that there's a human alive that doesn't need to heal the from 0 to 7 is what they say, but I'm not even sure those numbers make a difference.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Luannah wrote a book called Resilience, Grace, and the Art of Showing Up, a spiritual journey of empowerment against all odds. And as she said, Tom Byrd's group published it, but I got to help with some of the marketing to make it a bestseller. So I was thrilled to read it. I was introduced to Luannah through Sue Semino, who is a friend of both of ours. And the book is quite amazing. And one of the categories that it did well in is journal writing. And I'd like to talk about this before we talk about the storyline, because we don't want to give it away. We want them to want to buy the book. But if you hadn't been processing and working on yourself through journaling,
yeah,
the book would have never existed.
I've journaled my whole life.
So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I'll just interrupt you before you start, just for a second. Barbara Marx Hubbard, the futurist Barbara Marx Hubbard, who just passed away last year at 89, she left like a wall of journals. And she was a futurist, and she was brilliant. I mean, she was so articulate to her last day. I got to see her like 2 months, 3 months before she passed. And she's a whole nother story. She was definitely tapped in. But Oprah does journals, Barbara Marx Hubbard does journals, Jean Houston does journals. When you look at that practice that you automatically did, you probably got 10 books in you.
I got quite a few probably. Yeah.
Well, so can you talk about the journaling, about how, because that must have helped you at least remember.
Oh, yeah. So the journaling was always a way for me to process my experience, and especially since I was a little girl, I've always had a connection, however way, I don't have a religious family, but I always connected to nature, and I always connected to something bigger. I actually had a Jesus experience when I was 7 that wasn't religious. I just had an experience when my mother had left us at age of 7, and my sister was 12. Wow. And then my sister in the same year had a horseback riding accident that left her in a coma for a half a year. And that's all in the book. And so, and then my family fell apart. I was bullied at school, everything, as a 7-year-old, your identity is your family. Right. And so it completely was gone for me. And one day I was sitting in front of a TV, and I turned and I flipped to this channel, and I started hearing about Jesus. I didn't, know much about him before, but they said, hey, call on him, and he'll help you out. He'll heal you. And so I was there, crying in front of the TV and saying, Jesus, come help me. And I felt a warmth suddenly. I felt like this presence that soothed me, and I was like, wow. And then so, I started, anyways, it's in the book. I tried to find that same frequency in churches, but I didn't find it there. I just found a lot of dogma and things. So then nature became my source. Right. So I always had that difference in me. So I didn't have many people I could talk to, any at all. So my journal was sort of like my confidant for that inner world that I had, where I could also, it's always very philosophical. I started reading Joseph Campbell when I was 13.
Wow.
So I was always, seeking. And so my journals were my saving grace. I don't know how I would have made it through everything without my journals. And yeah,
they helped you process it. It helped you remember to put it in the book, and then it helped you have a way to look at it not just as the victim. That's what your story. You kept searching. You didn't stay. So many people stay in their story, and they just tell their story over and over again, and then attract more of it. Yeah. And you didn't. It's remarkable what you went through. You were living in Europe and on our continent, North America. And could you talk about, I think I lived in Italy. I speak Italian, and I went to school there 5 different times. And I think that exposure, number one, to the art, when you're in another culture and you get their persona kind of sense, it's a totally different. But the other part was the worldview of you, not in judgment. Yeah. It take. Don't you feel like that's what happened from living in Europe? Because you lived in wonderful places.
Yes, I did. Yeah, really amazing places. And the Italian part of Switzerland, so I speak Italian too, although it's rusty.
I'm very rusty because I haven't gotten to be there in a while. But I sing Andrea Bocelli songs.
Ooh, beautiful.
And try to bring it back. Nice. I don't sing opera, for God's sake, but well, could you talk about that? Because when you're in Germany or in France or in Italy or Switzerland, there is, at least in my experience, there's a sense of the being part of nature that isn't necessarily on North America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially like Germany and Switzerland, that's where I spent most of my time.
Right.
You know, for them, natural medicine has never been lost.
Right.
And when I lived there, doctors would recommend to me natural cures before they'd recommend pharmaceutical cures, right? Or medicine, right? And so there's just this natural understanding and even energy, you know, and people, they just get it. It's just a part of them, right?
Right.
It's not out there woo woo. It's like, oh yeah, that exists, right? It's like, oh yeah, that's a part of life. You know, that's real. It's not some sci-fi idea that,
right.
you know, that
well, they aren't, even though a lot of the culture has been trained because of feudalism and because of the church, they've been trained to look to someone else to really be the pathway to it. There's a huge, I worked with humanities team, and I think there were 250 a conversation with God community book reading groups in Germany.
The spirituality is huge there. And they are hungry for knowledge. They are hungry.
Right.
You could do a workshop over there and have 50 people. You try to do the same workshop here, you might have 7.
Right. That's okay. That's okay. There, I mean, it's all frequency and it's all global consciousness, and it'll all filter in. But the reason I brought it up, Luannah, is I wanted everyone to know your scope, because you didn't take a bunch of classes.
No.
And you are a healer. You're a born natural healer, and your curiosity to learn and to heal yourself, the skill set you have is so much more vast than most of the people practicing energy healing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've just always had that inclination, and I've always liked giving massages. I've always liked, you know, making people feel good. When I was a little girl, I remember my dad going to work early in the morning, and sometimes I'd go with him to CBC in Toronto, and I'd see all these sad people. And then one night I was writing in my journal, okay, this is what I want to do to make people smile. I'm going to make signs, and I'm going to put them up with my dad. And, you know, it was like there was always that desire to, you know, or homeless people, or, you know, people were sad. I was always the counselor of my friends. Even in the years where I was on and off the streets as a punk, I was the caregiver of the friends that I had.
So you just mentioned it. So we're gonna. So you've gone through self-expression in all different ways. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the punk part of you? Is it, looking at you now and your energy now, it's hard to imagine. I mean, it was style. It's just like people getting a bunch of tattoos. It's just a style.
Yeah.
But you were trying to express yourself and so you would notice.
Yeah, and break out of all the stuff I was caught in. You know, I had a lot of pain, you know, from everything that had happened. And so I ended up creatively expressing that through being a punk.
And so you see her now and you would never know.
Yeah, long, well, first I had shaved hair and purple. Oh my gosh. My nickname was Raisin because I wore all purple makeup, purple hair. And then eventually it grew into like Susie and the Banshees. I got long black extensions, and you know, did makeup like her. So I loved Susie and the Banshees. And so I used to panhandle on Queen Street, on Spadina, on Yonge Street in front of Eaton Center. There are people who have pictures of me and my friends that took pictures of us, you know, tourists somewhere in the world.
Wow. Well, so how do you feel about, I mean, do you feel that all of this helped you have compassion so that you could help? Because that's anger, right? That's anger or fear. When they're almost the same in a lot of ways. So do you feel like all of this is part of your journey, was to give you the experience so that you could help someone process through?
Absolutely. You know, it's like one time when I moved here to Canada, it's already 20 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah. And I went to a psychic fair, and this woman, I went to get a reading, and she looked at me and she said, man, you chose to learn a lot in this life, not easy lessons. And I went, wow, you have no idea.
Yes, she did.
And I was just like, wow, you're good, you know? And then she said to me, your main healing is you've got so many voices telling you who you're not. Your main healing is to heal all the wounds. Those voices.
Oh, you poor thing. I mean, but honestly, you guys, this is a great read. The book Against Resilience, Grace, and the Art of Showing Up, A Spiritual Journey of Empowerment Against All Odds. I'm going to put the website up here. That is Luannah's website. That is, she also has the Serenity by the Sea website, but we're putting up that one so that you can reach the book really easily.
And there's a connection on that page for Serenity as well.
Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, because I think anyone would be so lucky to work with you. To just
I feel blessed with everybody I work with. I get to witness magic every day, and it's just the transformations are mind blowing, you know. And
it doesn't feel like work when you're doing that. It doesn't feel. It's funny. It's rare when you're in that space. It's rare that you feel like it's work. It feels more like you're in it.
Yeah, I never get tired. I'm not. And there's, you know, one beautiful thing that I love is one of the things that my elder taught in Hawaii. You know, he says, all healing is 1% God and 99% entertainment.
See, but I think it's even more than that. I mean, you're facilitating.
Oh, yes.
You're holding the higher frequency resonance so that whatever obstacle to health they have is being obliterated, right? It's being
and it's not diminishing the entertainment. The entertainment isn't diminishing. It's like everything that I've learned and I shared and I speak in a way. It's a kind of it's a tool to transmit that 1% of God.
Wow, that's perfect. And maybe we don't need even that much. That's so Jade Rader, who's also done a lot of Hawaiian kahuna healing work. She's lived there and now she's living in Oregon. She said, yes, we must be able to self-regulate and engage in the world.
Yeah. So we got to have our roots. Otherwise we're at the mercy of every wind that comes our way.
So, but you are an empath, right? That's part of the reason why you struggled. I am too. And when you're aware of the people that aren't sensitive, which I think with these new energies, everyone's going to be sensitive. So they need your book to read to see how to push through. But when you're empathic, you're aware of the space you're in. You're not just aware of yourself.
No, you pick up on everything, or I pick up on everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily know to define everything I'm picking up either. Sometimes it's just a presence, a feeling, a frequency, you know, and sometimes I can define it, sometimes I can't. And that used to be really difficult. When I studied energy healing with a woman in Berlin, Germany, and she was a traditional healer. So no websites, no nothing, you know, no certification. Your certification is your evolution. And so before I moved back to Canada, she initiated me as a teacher. I wasn't expecting that. And, you know, 2 years before I decided to move, she had called me back to her office one day and said, Lou, whenever you move back to Canada, let me know. I'm going to make you a teacher so you can share it over there. I'm like, really? I'm like, okay, I didn't see myself like that, right? And then when I did decide to come back to Canada, I called her and said, yeah, you remember you said this?
Were you
right? And so one of the things she said would happen with that too is that empathicness would get even stronger, and it would take a few years probably to integrate. And she was right. You know, it was overwhelming. And in that, I moved to Canada and I arrived here and I knew nobody, right? And I had nobody to mirror me back to me either. And I've got all this new, so it was another huge transition coming here to Canada.
You're a courageous woman. The travel that you've done you're an adventurer. So one of the other categories that you did well in is adventure travel. And the reason is because once you read this book, you'll see Luannah was able to just say yes. I mean, basically, that is a big part of the theme in this book, is that you didn't have fear. Well, if you had fear, you pushed through it.
Push through it, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? All the travel.
Oh, yeah. I just sort of followed wherever the wind took me. When I was 18. So my mother, she moved to Germany when I was 9.5. And so she got remarried. Actually, she went there when I was 8, but she came back briefly, and then she got married when I was 9.5 over there.
Yeah.
And so I only saw her once a year for a month. And then when I was 18, I decided I want to go spend some time with her and see, what that might be like.
Yeah.
So I ended up just staying with her for 1 month, and then I got a job in a 5-star hotel doing a practicum as a restaurateur. And so I was there, and then my roommate, she decided she was going to go to the Italian part of Switzerland. And so she had to go down there for an interview, and she invited me to go. And I had already had plans with a friend that day, and I went, "Oh no, I can't go with you. Sorry, I'd like to." And then an hour before she left, my friend canceled. And so okay, let's go.
Yeah. So but that's what I'm saying. You say yes. Because your story is say yes, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I never fully looked at it like that, but it's true. Yeah. And then, we drove 5 hours to Lago Maggiore. She had her interview. The bosses met me as well. She got the job. And then a month later, they asked her, "Hey, does your friend want to come work here too?" And I went, "Yes." And so I left there and went down to the Italian part of Switzerland and worked there, and then other serendipities. I mean, it's all, those are years, specific years that are in the book there, and just magic. So it's just following, and then going to Thailand, and, and then in Thailand, waking up in the morning and hearing "Go to Nepal." And I went, "Oh, what's Nepal?" I didn't even know what Nepal was.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I read this and went, really? I mean, oh my God, it's so courageous, really. I mean, I lived in Italy and everything, but we were still, I was going to school, and I was not as courageous as you are. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know if I am now either.
And for years, people used to say that to me, and I never used to see myself as courageous. I never.
You are.
I do now when I look back, but I was just showing up to what.
That's right. You said yes. You said yes, and you said, "What is this for me? Not what's against me." See, that's the big part of the lesson, and the hope that I have that people read this book is they'll see a little piece of themselves in it and try it, because there's they have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose to show up completely and experiment and be in wonder of the magic that's here.
Yes, that's my hope, is that people can wake up with that magic and that wonder, and not magic as in a magic trick, but the consciousness, the intelligence of life that's in us and all around us all the time. And, just waiting for us to say, "Hi, hey, help,"
Exactly.
Because life is here to support and uphold life. That's what life does. There's an intelligence that does that, and we are nature. So right. Why would we be exempt from that natural energy supporting us?
Right.
But we've separated. We've forgotten that. But the ancient cultures, they knew this.
Right.
So my hope is that people might connect to nature more and realize this is a conscious being here, and we are a part of this universe, the stars, the earth, everything, and there's guidance there, like a North Star, that when we choose to connect to it. I mean, I've made it through incredible things that sometimes I think, how the heck did I get through? and
well, you didn't really see your spirit. You have a energy spark that doesn't allow you to. You're not a quitter, and you'll push through and be courageous to go through. almost as a curiosity more than I've got to do this. You were more about there's something else for me, and it's probably because you connected with Jesus at 7, and you were connecting with your angels and guides who were right there anytime you needed them.
Yeah, there's always been a connection. Yeah, and I think I've always had, and I still do have, an insatiable appetite for learning. I think that's a key thing too. And then the arts helped me too. Dancing, handwork, I do leather beadwork, the singing, there's so much that I'm happy I reached out for.
Me too. And I'm so glad I read your book. I highly recommend it. I'm going to put her website up again so you can get the book, and then I'll put the link to it on Amazon here in the comments or in the conversation. And there aren't any other messages right this second on here, but is there anything else that you'd like us to know about your book, and maybe about how they can have the life you have?
I mean, it's really. I'll use the teaching from Hawaii from my elder, Thundering Grace. It's actually my tattoo right here. It's in my turtle, and this I had done after I was initiated with my elder as my symbol, as my commitment to sharing the teachings. And so Thundering Grace is grace giving, grace receiving gratitude. So recognizing that our gratitude brings in the flow of grace. And it's a relationship, right? And so the more that we connect to what is good, and the more we connect to what is love, that nourishes us, that inspires us, that sparks us, the more then grace opens and feeds us more with that, And it's a really important thing. Gratitude is huge, because even if I can't be happy in this moment, right? Even if I'm having a moment and I'm feeling down and I'm challenged, I can still choose something to be grateful for.
Right.
And if I focus on that, then eventually a warmth develops in my body.
Right.
And then happiness comes. Right. So I think I've always been grateful. That's also, at the end of journal writing, thank you, God, thank you, Great Spirit. I've always had that gratitude. And then when I went to Hawaii and learned with my elder, and he shared that teaching of grace receiving gratitude, it was like when I landed in Hawaii, it was home for everything that I'd ever learned anywhere on the planet.
Perfect.
Hawaii brought it all together, and that's why I use that as a main focus in the work that I do with people, because it's very profound, very simple, very effective, and useful.
Beautiful. So Jade Raider said, I have a Honu too. Gratitude grows grace, so my experience too. So yeah, she may have done something similar to you.
Yeah.
Small world department here.
Yeah. In the Hawaiian teachings, they say there's 7 layers of meaning to every teaching, right? And so the learning is nonstop. You're never done learning.
Right. That's the hope, is that we still may get to, oh my gosh, Milana said me too.
Oh, beautiful.
Is that wild? I remember I mentioned 2 people on the call, wow, that's weird. That's so cool. Well, you can feel Luannah's energy, and you can hear that she has a tremendous opportunity for you to go to the next level, either by reading her book and starting to assimilate that your journey could be like that. And she also has this beautiful offering at Serenity by the Sea, which would allow you to customize and create the perfect retreat for yourself to get to the next level. Because it's 2020, you guys. The veils don't have to be on anymore. You can choose to be the bright light that you are.
And we can be grounded in both realities.
Right. And bring all that love in and be that love. Yes. Anything else? The best way to reach you is through this website, and through they can find you on Facebook.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are those the 2 best ways?
Two best ways are the website, you know, on the author page. I also have the link to Serenity by the Sea, and so that
Right,
email as well.
right, right. Well, thank you so much, and I hope everyone will take the gift that you've so beautifully wrapped
Thank you
and
so much.
open it and use it.
Thank you so much. It was such a huge process writing this book, and it brought other layers of healing too. Like I said, we're always healing in layers.
Yep. Yeah. Well, a book is like a baby. There's no question. And but your book really can help so many people. A lot of the books that are people's personal stories really are more biographies. This is not a biography, you guys. This is a transformation.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
So
dear. Okay, so we're gonna sign off. Okay.
thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Bye bye.
Blessings. Bye.